This is Optimal Health Daily, episode 2319. 7 Tips for a Better Night's Sleep, Part 1, by Melani Schweder of abrighterwild.com. And I'm Dr. Neil. Welcome back to Optimal Health Daily, where I simply read to you from the best health and fitness blogs for free. This is kind of like an audiobook, but with articles instead, and articles from a bunch of different authors, and always with permission from the sites. Then on Fridays, I do something a little different. That's when I answer your questions. Remember, you can send me a question by going to oldpodcast.com/ask or email your question directly to health@oldpodcast.com. Now, today's episode is a little longer than what I normally read to you. So what I'll do is read the first half today and then finish up the rest for you tomorrow. So with that, let's hear part 1 as we optimize your life. 7 Tips for a Better Night's Sleep, Part 1, by Melani Schweder of abrighterwild.com. I've always thought that one of the cruelest things about chronic fatigue syndrome was the sleep disturbances that came along with it. I mean, really? I'm exhausted, brain-fried, and achy, and all I want is to fall into a long, deep slumber. And that's exactly what this illness prevents me from doing. Ever since getting sick over 6 years ago, I've struggled to get a good night's rest, and I know that it's one of the most important factors in how I feel every day and my overall healing trajectory. And so sleep has become a serious passion, maybe obsession of mine, and I'm always on a quest for ways to improve upon my Z's. The thing is, it's not just those of us with chronic fatigue syndrome who are struggling with sleep every night. It's estimated that almost 50% of Americans have some form of sleep dysfunction, like occasional or chronic insomnia, trouble falling asleep, and trouble staying asleep. Stress, overstimulation from our environments, and pain can keep you from getting the nourishing rest your body and brain need. So, no matter if you are dealing with a chronic disease, severe pain, an overactive mind, or just can't seem to get into a good nightly routine, this post is for you. Over the years, I've gathered a handful of techniques that have worked for me. Implementing them regularly has helped me get deeper and more refreshing sleep, which has kept my symptoms under better control and helped me heal. So, without further ado, here are my top 7 tips for sleep. 1. Black it and block it. There was a time where I needed some kind of light on in order to sleep. When I was extremely sick and dizzy, I needed some kind of light on in order to sleep. But moving on from that, I realized that I slept more soundly in a dark room. And I mean really dark. Not just shut the cheap mini blinds kind of dark. I invested in thick thermal drapes that completely covered my windows, made sure electronic lights were masked, and even grabbed a pair of soft cotton shorts that I used to cover my eyes when even the tiniest amount of morning light would peek through. Our brains are finely tuned to be awake when it's light. So, for the maximal restorative effect, block out as much light as you can in your sleeping space. If you can tolerate a sleep mask, go for it. Otherwise, look into thick drapes, a roller shade, or a do-it-yourself window covering. Also, take a look around at electronic lights, clocks, speakers, sound machines, aquariums, chargers, etc. These little bits of bright artificial light can mess up your sleep too. And while we're on the subject, tip number 2, cut the blue light. Perhaps you've read in the news or elsewhere that our electronic habits are messing with our sleep because of the blue wavelengths of light they emit. In fact, I think it's so important, I wrote an entire blog about it a while back. The thing is, that blue light that comes from your smartphone, your tablet, your TV, and your e-reader is telling your brain to halt melatonin production. And this valuable hormone is crucial for getting to sleep and staying on a healthy sleep schedule. So if you're able, power down your electronics at least 1 hour before bedtime. And if you're hooked to your Kindle like I am, invest in some amber-colored goggles or a blue blocking film for your screen. Give yourself at least a few days to experiment with this and give your brain time to readjust its melatonin levels. Trust me, it'll be worth it when you wake up rested. 3. Halt the stimulants. Confession. I love coffee. Love the smell, love the taste, love the way it fits into my mornings perfectly and gives me a boost to get my work done. But I haven't had a sip of it in months. Why? Because it seriously messes with my sleeping. Even a half-caff drink leaves me awake for several hours past my usual bedtime. I've always been sensitive to caffeine, but it's gotten more apparent as I've changed my diet and cleaned things up even more. So for now, I'm going sans coffee in the mornings to give my body a fighting chance at a solid night's sleep. If you are a heavy caffeine user, try cutting back a little bit for a week or so and see how you sleep differently. Or, if you're brave, go for a full caffeine detox for 2 to 3 weeks. Regardless, it's always good to stop taking in any stimulants by mid-afternoon. These compounds stay in your system for a long time, so don't assume that your morning cup will be flushed out by the evening. Tip number 4. Hear that on tomorrow's episode. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled 7 Tips for a Better Night's Sleep by Melani Schweder of abrighterwild.com. What do you call a person who speaks 3 languages? Trilingual. Someone who speaks 2? Bilingual. Someone who speaks 1? American. Only 22% of Americans speak a language other than English at home. Start learning a new language this fall and be the exception. With Babbel, you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. Instead of paying hundreds of dollars for a private tutor or fooling yourself with language apps that are little more than games, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by over 150 language experts to help you start speaking a new language fast. And for me, I love Babbel because it teaches you to speak the way native speakers do, lingo and all. So having real conversations is much easier. Here's a special limited time deal for our listeners to get you started right now. Get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/OHD. Get 55% off at babbel.com/OHD. Spelled BABBEL.com/OHD. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Brooks Running has a new shoe for you runners out there. Did you hear that? Better turn up your volume. In fact, turn it up to the max. Introducing the all-new Ghost Max. It's got all kinds of things to make your knees and ankles feel protected, like Max Cushion, Max Soft Landings with DNA Loft V2 foam, and Max Smooth Rides with their Glide Roll Rocker. Feel better on your run with Ghost Max. Learn more at brooksrunning.com.
Dr. Neil here for my commentary. Melani's poetic description of how coffee makes her feel is definitely something I can relate to. But like Melani, I too realized that I'm sensitive to caffeine's effects. In fact, more than 2 cups of coffee, and I can't fall asleep at night. A cup of coffee in the afternoon is absolutely out of the question. On the other hand, I don't seem to be as sensitive to light. So the run-of-the-mill blinds in my bedroom seem to be fine for now. When it comes to blue light exposure, until we know for sure, I would just assume that we are all sensitive to blue light. This is because the potential benefits of avoiding blue light before bed likely outweighs any harms of avoiding it. Said another way, avoiding exposure to blue light before bed is more likely to help you, not harm you. On my phone, unless I'm watching the latest Batman trailer, I always keep the blue light filter on. Trailers for Batman movies are always so dark, it's hard to see what's going on half the time. Anywho, before I go on a rant about that, when I'm not watching a Batman trailer, you can guarantee that the blue light filter on my phone is on. And I'll be honest, at first the screen definitely looks more orange, but after a couple of days, you don't even notice it anymore. It's so worth it. Sleep well. All right, that should do it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing this show with someone. I'll be back here tomorrow to finish up this post. I'll see you back here tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.